Live from San Francisco on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network, you are listening to Wrestling Observer Live with your hosts, Brian Alvarez and Mike Sempervive.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Let's get it on!
Mike Sempervive here with you, Wrestling Observer Live. I just woke up. I did. I know it's probably like, Mike, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern Time. Just getting up now, you bum. You're probably right about the latter, but hey, I mean, it's going to be a long day. It's going to be a long night. I think by my last check, there are 438 shows today taking place in the New York metropolitan area. I think everywhere from Bridgeport, Connecticut, down to Trenton, New Jersey is going to have some sort of show taking place. It's crazy. Actually, 13 of them. 2 of which have already ended. One for sure has already ended, the Evolve 125 show. I am not 100% sure if the Super Show has ended yet for Powerbomb TV. But I do know that in Jamaica, Queens, possibly somewhere near the Bristol Hotel, Fight Club Pro and Destiny are holding a show right now that is streaming on Fight TV, so that is going on. There's a WXW show. The guys from Germany are over at 4 o'clock with a really, I mean, it is a hardcore show, but that's going to be taking place. Josh Barnett's Bloodsport. Access is tonight. There's a second part of the Super Show, MLW, Interspecies Wrestling, DDT, Murder Mania Night 2, AIW, Impact is going to have a show in Rahway, New Jersey at 11 p.m. tonight. And then Kaiju Big Battle, what has now become a tradition to close out Thursday. That's going to be taking place at midnight. So it ain't going to stop. So you might as well get rested up because not only do you have a long night today, a long day today, but come tomorrow, it's even bigger as we lead into Saturday. The NXT show is tomorrow night. G1 Supercard on Saturday, WrestleMania on Sunday. Just absolute, complete insanity. And I want you to share in that insanity with me. Give me a call, 1-800-878-PLAY, 1-800-878-7529. Pass along your thoughts on Twitter, at Sempervive, at Sports Byline USA. Get this thing started, we get back. Back with you, Mike Sempervive here, Wrestling Observer Live. Producer Dom behind the glass. Hey, welcome back, Dom. How are you? You doing okay? You having a good day? Having fun answering those phones? Make Dom work today. 1-800-878-PLAY, 1-800-878-7529. We're going to go right to those phones. Jack in D.C., what's up?
Hey, Mike, that's a whole lot. How you doing?
Not too bad, my friend. What's on your mind?
WrestleMania is 3 days away, and I'm thinking if they do end up going through with Angle's last match with Baron Corbin, I don't think it's going to go over too well. If it really is Angle's last match, which it probably will be, they better swerve at the last second, because I was actually at Raw on Monday. I was in the audience, and I have never, in 15 years of going to WWE live shows, I have never seen a crowd that dead as it was during that last half hour of Raw. I mean, they weren't even reacting negatively. It was just like the crowd was comatose. I mean, Baron Corbin's not, like, useless. It's just his role now is just so bad. It's not a bad heel. It's just bad.
Well, what do you think is going to... Do you really think that they're going to go through with that match and not have something after it or some sort of surprise or asterisk attached to it, whether it be... And I guess I'll ask you that, and I'll throw this out there to everybody as well, too. And if they do, who do you think it will be? Because if John Cena gets tied up with Elias, as it looks like it may... What does that leave? Or will it be John Cena and Kurt Angle and maybe The Rock and Elias? What would you do? Do you think they're going to do anything?
Okay, what I think the Elias segment will end up with coming out. I honestly believe that. I know I wouldn't bet money on it, but I honestly think that's what they're going to do. And that leaves Cena. I think he'll be involved with Baron Corbin, but I think they'll actually start the match. It'll probably last 30 seconds. I know you guys have already talked about this, but then after that, Cena will come out just like he did at WrestleMania 32. No build, no advertising, just for the moment. That way people won't remember Corbin. They'll just remember Cena and Angle, raising each other's hands. But to have Corbin on the ticket, all the way going through Mania, it's just, I mean, I wouldn't do it. I'd have him in a battle royal. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, Jack, I want to thank you very much for the call. I say, and like you, it's not that I hate Baron Corbin. He's got value in a role. It's just redefining that role and redefining the character and certainly redefining his look, because him wrestling in full clothes, at least the way it's set up right now, not that I'm ever for wrestling in a suit, but I think if you're going to do this with Baron Corbin, maybe you move him into a role where he is more muscle than anything. He's muscle with at least a little bit of a mouth when you need him to fire off awesome promos. He can be in the mix with a top tier, somehow mixed in with people, but he just can't be that dude. And he can't have such a presence on TV. And if he does, it's got to be more in a background role. Tell me that wouldn't help him out immensely. And it's not that I hate Baron Corbin. He is not obviously Ricky Steamboat in the ring. Few people are. But he does have value, and he does have presence, and he is very athletic. So there's a combination that we can work with this. I mean, promoters of the past, far dumber than the people and the writers that they have there, and be able to do more with less. So I'm sure they can do something with this guy, but yeah, I'm all for putting him in a different position. And this year, it is hard for me to believe that there will not be some sort of surprise. And again, the reason I would have some hesitation on The Rock making an appearance is just because, they haven't hyped it up. Is that something you want as a surprise, or is that something you want to advertise beforehand? I'm okay with it as a surprise, but I can see where people would be cynical of it. If they're not going to announce it, then he's not going to be there. But I agree. I think The Rock is going to have some sort of tie-in with Elias, and it's going to lead to Cena and Kurt Angle. And I guess if you want that way outside opportunity with Lars Sullivan, that's a good way to re-debut him. I wouldn't do it at Mania, obviously, because I think this should really be all about a feel-good Mania with Kofi, with Becky. I think even with Seth Rollins, with Roman Reigns conquering Drew McIntyre. I think there can be some strife on the show, but for the most part, the overarching thing needs to be, I think, good triumphs over evil. But on Monday, Sullivan going out there and destroying both guys or something like that, yeah, I think you could absolutely do that. Going to go back to the phone lines now. Nick in Vermont. Nick, how are you?
Hey, Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm making it, my man. Have you indulged in anything yet? Have you been watching Fight.tv streaming, or have you already taken in any of this stuff yet?
I'm watching Bloodsport at 4. That will be the first one of possibly 10 to 15 shows this week.
Now, have you always been a shoot-style fan or a fan of that style, or why Bloodsport?
Brother got me into MMA when I was like 5th grade, so I had kept up with guys like George St. Pierre and Josh Barnett and guys like that. So, plus I just saw the original Bloodsport movie a couple months ago, so I got very intrigued by that. And I love Minoru Suzuki and stuff like that, so.
Yeah, Minoru Suzuki being in America and working multiple shows is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And that's, a lot of those guys, the opportunities for guys to come over from all over the world, but especially the influx of people from Japan over the past couple of years and having the opportunity to do shows like this is great. But what else is on your mind today?
Really WrestleMania. I don't feel the card is really, sticks out to me. I'm excited for the women's triple threat and the Dana Bryan Kofi Kingston match, but the one I'm really looking forward to the most, surprisingly, would be Batista and Triple H. That was the main event of my first WrestleMania 14 years ago when I got into wrestling, so it's kind of like a nostalgia throwback thing to me.
Yeah, and I want to thank you very much for the call, Nick. This is going to be a show, I think, that I can see us this thing just, if everything stopped right now, it's thrown to a time capsule 20 years from now and somebody opens it up and watches this show. I have a feeling this show's going to be really good. It's going to be really long, but it's going to be really good because of the matches on there. And in a vacuum, I think people are probably going to watch this show and it's going to be like, man, this must have been great times going on. Look at these matchups. AJ Styles and Randy Orton, that had to be good. Triple H and Batista, that had to be good. And it's like, there's been something missing about all of this lead up, and that's going to be forgotten about probably in the future as time goes on. You know, much like what the previous caller, Jack, had said about Baron Corbin. You know, the way WWE changes history, you can easily ease him out of the picture, and then the only thing you'll remember from WrestleMania is Kurt Angle and John Cena with their arms in the air. It's kind of the same thing, you know, in the future. I have a feeling when it comes to this card, because you look at it and it's like, for as much as we've talked about the bad build-up, the matches themselves are going to be good. On Twitter last night, I kind of threw out a joke about AJ Styles and Randy Orton that, like, just watching them on SmackDown and in the past couple weeks, I mean, these are two good old boys, you know, down there in, you know, Georgia or in Missouri, that, like, two dudes who went to high school with each other, you know, AJ, mischievous kid of the big farmer. Randy Orton's dad, always on the road. He's always kind of grown up getting in trouble, but they palled around a lot. But now they got this rivalry at their job, and they went out after their job, and they were sitting there drinking, and they were doing shots of Fireball and drinking Natural Light and talking trash, and Randy got a little pissed off with what AJ was telling him. And Randy went after him, and here we are. We're getting this wrestling match at a pay-per-view, and they're going to wrestle for, like, the most expensive, jacked-up, big-treaded truck tires that you can possibly imagine. They should have built it up that way. It would have been a lot better. But they're still going to work with each other because the company's got the softball game coming up, and they're going to have to work together to win that big trophy because that's cool. It's a long way to get to the break, but 18 matches? 17 matches. No, how many matches here? 17 matches, I think, for WrestleMania right now. Baron and Kurt Angle, not so good. But hard for me to believe that Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre won't be good. The Triple H and Batista in a no-holds-barred match. Daniel Bryan, Kofi Kingston. I mean, the emotion should carry that one. Lesnar and Seth Rollins. Rousey and Lynch and Flair for all of the hullabaloo leading into it. Once they get in there, I mean, whatever you want to say about everything's choreographed or whatever. I mean, for the most part, the big women's matches on big shows, really almost all big WWE matches, end up being pretty good. There's the Andre Battle Royal. There's the Women's Battle Royal. Those will both be on the pre-show. They have announced that. Buddy Murphy, Tony Nese. That's going to be good. It's going to be on the pre-show. It's going to be early in the show. And it probably won't get a whole lot of buzz, but it's probably going to be pretty good. John Cena, and again, you know, how he plays in, who knows. AJ Styles and Randy Orton, probably going to be pretty good. Shane McMahon and The Miz. It's not going to be, again, this doesn't have to be Flair and Steamboat or Nakamura and Tanahashi. It's just got to be Shane McMahon and The Miz. And I think the crowd is going to be as entertaining probably as the match, that's just going to be full of stunts and going to be full of sight gags. And I'm okay with that. As long as Shane doesn't kill himself or turn a different shade of purple. Samoa Joe and Rey Mysterio, the build has been less than stellar. But once they get in there, again, depending on how much time they have, even if they have a short bit of time, it's Samoa Joe and Rey Mysterio. Bobby Lashley, Finn Balor, you got the Demon. Probably a good chance he's going to win here. You know, Leo Rush is going to be entertaining. Bobby Lashley's going to lose. People are going to cheer. Women's tag title match? Okay. Not so much there. And the SmackDown four-way, I've seen it a zillion times. But it's always good each time, if not pedestrian. So I can live with that. And then the Revival and Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins, which as we talked about yesterday or 2 days ago, probably just going to result in a good pop for Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins. It is a good show. It really is. And there's a bunch of other people who aren't on it. We'll see if any of them get on the show. At some point, Lacey Evans is going to stride out. Yay. But we'll have to see what happens. Over to Twitter, Dabbledob. Mike, I think they're just going to do Corbin versus Angle. Think about how long they've built this for with Corbin taking over for Angle as GM. Could very well be right about that. You go out there, they could go for 4 minutes. Kurt taps him out clean. He drops to his knees, leaves his boots in the middle of the ring, salutes everybody, cries a little bit, and goes. They could absolutely do that. I just don't think they will, and I don't think the reaction that they got, I would like to see them do a little bit more. Especially because if Kurt, and obviously, I did forget to note that Rey Mysterio did get hurt, and he did tweet out a vine of his injury where he landed coming off the top rope in the match on SmackDown on Tuesday night, and landed badly and looked to jam up his right ankle. So who knows if he's going to be ready. If he's out of that match with Samoa Joe, it'll be interesting to see if they just cut it and add Joe into another mix or something like that. Time-wise, there you can do Samoa Joe and John Cena if you wanted to. If you wanted to do something there, that wouldn't be bad. But we'll have to see kind of what happens there. Yeti to Rumble. My prediction is Angle versus Corbin, with Corbin winning quick and beating down on Angle leads to Cena coming out to make the save. Cue cheers, tears, celebration, and happiness as they're leaving. Lars attacks. Not bad. It's a way to make an impact. And it's a way to make an impact at WrestleMania. I mean, if you're going to do it there, I mean, obviously, as we know, they can forget history if they like, even at WrestleMania. But, be pretty big. I would still wait till Raw or SmackDown, though. I think for everything Kurt Angle's done, and I get it that you would do it for the business or whatever, and Kurt Angle certainly gave his a lot for this business. His health, obviously, family in some cases, but yeah, I would just give him this time and let him kind of go out like that. Punch Rocker 7, do you see a role for Hogan at Mania? Here's my prediction. He gets the spot interrupting Elias, and Brutus cuts his hair. There is a lot of hair on Elias. He's got like Jimmy Valiant's beard starting up from like 83. Got a lot of hair that you can trim a little of. And I didn't think about this, but there is a really good chance that Brutus is going to cut somebody's hair in there. Hulk Hogan has been announced as inducting Brutus the Barber Beefcake into the Hall of Fame. Not really much to add there. Hanao? Nah, doesn't matter. Actually, it does, because it's your name. So Hanao _ Asa or Asa, I apologize. Their prediction. Angle squashes Corbin in like 1 minute or something like this, and voila. Angle has a second match later against Cena. Maybe they could set up a thing with Lars Sullivan during this match. Could do that as well, too. I think Angle should just beat Corbin fast anyway for two reasons. One, it doesn't extend out the pain. I don't think anybody wants to see Baron Corbin on offense here. They just want to see him get his, and they want to see Kurt Angle for one last time. So I think that's good. And it's not in a different era, too. I would love to see him go out there and kill Corbin. And then you could have that match with Cena or a surprise match with somebody else that makes, everybody happy, and you can get that, really awesome Kurt Angle wrestling moment. But I don't know if I need that Kurt Angle wrestling moment at this point. I've seen enough of them. And in fact, as I've said, and I don't want to sound whiny about this, I've seen too many Kurt Angle great moments. I would have been fine if Kurt Angle's career ended a while ago. But it's gone on, and I hope for the best for the future and everything. But him just killing Corbin here, especially on a show that's got so many matches, just give me the happy ending and get out. I didn't mean for that. Never mind. The Nationals are winning right now. If you're listening live to me, 2-0 over the Mets, top of the 8th. Figure out a way the bullpen can blow this. Because it is WrestleMania week, lots of things get announced at this time. A couple of them today. One of which is still head-scratching, but at some point we'll have Dr. Lucha Steve Sims on to talk about it. And I'm sure Dave Meltzer is going to be doing a lot of talking about it coming up. AAA is officially heading to Madison Square Garden. This is up at WrestlingObserver.com. Your home for all the news in professional wrestling and mixed martial arts. Available on Twitter as well, at WONF4W. I think. Dom, check on that for me. I always get that backwards. AAA is officially heading to Madison Square Garden. At a Thursday press conference, Lucha Libre AAA Worldwide announced a show for New York City on Sunday, September 5th. The first time they have been back since July 1994 when they ran the adjoining theater. Tickets will go on sale May 4th at Ticketmaster, with expected streaming options to be announced at a later date. No matches were announced, but it is said there will be a lot of surprises. Both the event date and on-sale date have intended Mexican significance. The show is a day before Mexican Independence Day, while the on-sale date is Cinco de Mayo, a nod to the Hispanic community in New York, which they hope to draw from. MSG officials were talking about the event selling out thanks in part to fly-ins. After years as a WWE stronghold, the AAA show will be the second high-profile non-WWE pro wrestling event held in MSG this year, following Saturday's joint ROH/New Japan show. Peter Luco of Oakview Group is responsible for bringing AAA to MSG, which is the start of the promotion coming to major arenas around the country. A Los Angeles date at the Forum will be announced in a few weeks. At this point, there is no AEW involvement. At the press event, AAA Managing Director Dorian Roldan said this is one of the most important moments in the history of the company since its founding in 1992, and it's the start of their new strategy. This venue's now feature speaks to the Arena Alliance partnership and possible cities AAA could try to go to. Oh, I'm sorry, that was a link to an article. That was as Brian Alvarez, anchorman, as I've ever gotten right there. Like straight Wikipedia reading. So this venue's now has got a feature where this dude speaks about the partnership in cities AAA can try to go to. I shall now continue. Part of the strategy that they have is to focus on the U.S., Latin America, and Colombian markets through 2020. The press event featured Roldan, Hugo Savinovich, Conan, Daga, Puma King, Aerostar, Phoenix, Drago, Taya, Tessa Blanchard, Blue Demon Jr., and Pentagon Jr., with several of them speaking during the event. Ed Nordholm and Scott D'Amore from Anthem/Impact were also in attendance. I don't know how this is going to go for AAA, but we'll see. I gotta get myself composed. Give me a call, 1-800-878-PLAY. We'll be back. Wrestling Observer Live.
Bro. You are listening to Wrestling Observer Live with Brian Alvarez and Mike Sempervive on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network.
I guess Cain Velasquez could end up on that AAA show at Madison Square Garden. I'm going to read a little bit from the Wrestling Observer newsletter this week, available for subscribers at WrestlingObserver.com. And I must have been in space, I guess, with everything else going on. I have been missing the AAA Cain Velasquez connection. Dave leaves off the AAA notes by saying that regarding Cain Velasquez, it looks like he'll be in a tag or trios match. The story behind him coming in is that AAA was looking for something that would get mainstream attention for Triple Mania, and TV Azteca was looking to air the show live in prime time, so they wanted something for the non-wrestling fans that would get casual fans interested. The name Cain Velasquez came up because they were aware he was a fan and he had trained with WWE, even though it was only for a week. Right now it's a one-show deal. He is expecting to fight on a September 21st show in Mexico City, but with his last loss and injury, that may change. If he does, he may do a second date this year. Dave then goes on to talk about not understanding the idea of running Madison Square Garden, quote, because they'll do it there at great expense unless they get great area television, and I'm not sure they'll do well even if they had local television, unquote. Yeah. There's a lot of buildings you could run and a lot of bigger buildings you could run that are a lot more rent-friendly. Now, can they fill Madison Square Garden? Yeah, I bet you AAA can. But it's at that great expense because you can bring in boxers and you can do a lot of stuff and you can really build up. I absolutely believe they could, bold font, underline, capitalized, could sell out Madison Square Garden. But is the juice going to be worth the squeeze? That's what I wonder about. Are you going to be able to get enough for those tickets to offset? Now, if they got a money guy who just wants to be able to say he did it, and really has got the money where he can blow it here and still use it as a launching pad and rent out these big buildings. I mean, it's not like you'd be better off putting that money in some ways to me into trying to partner up with buying your way into hooking up with MLS to be able to run shows in conjunction with MLS games. that you can maybe try to build around and try to utilize those buildings. I mean, I would rather. It's got to be cheaper rent to run the Audi Stadium in D.C. now, the new one they put in for D.C. United, than it would be to rent out the MCI Center, or the MCI Center, even more dating myself there, the Verizon Center. Or one of these massive buildings. I don't know. And ROH in New Japan, I mean, it was a different story and different backing behind them. And it's even crazy that they're there. I mean, this is for wrestling history geeks, it's a big one. It's a really notable one because they're the first ones in since 1960. They're the first promotions to run Madison Square Garden who aren't in conjunction with the McMahon since 1960. And that was Jack Pfeffer and Pedro Martinez, who, if I have this date right, it would have been November 14th, 1960. They drew 12,815 people for a nearly $36,000 gate for their last show, which was finished off by Antonio Rocca and Bruno Sammartino going to a curfew draw. The next month, 2 days before Christmas, Vince McMahon Sr. and Toots Mott's Capital Wrestling promotes there, and they do 11,000, nearly 12,000 people, and a $31,000 gate. It seemed to feature, it was Antonio Rocca and Johnny Valentine against the Fabulous Kangaroos. They finished one fall apiece, and the third one going to a no contest. Couple names on this show. Buddy Rogers defeated Haystacks Calhoun. Bearcat Wright defeated Eddie Graham. Mark Lewin and Don Curtis. And Mark Lewin was like a fetus at this age. Mark Lewin has been around for so long. He is one of those guys, from a history point of view, that may fly under the radar for newer fans, but people like Les Thatcher and Kevin Sullivan and Mark Lewin and those people are such a great connection through such a different era and back into time. And Lewin and Curtis against Ben Sharp and Tony Altamore. Lou Albano's original tag team partner with the Sicilians, and he filled in for Mike Sharp, who was injured in the first fall. And Ben and Mike Sharp went in the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame not all that long ago. One of the first great tag teams in America, legends in Japan, for going over there during the birth of Japanese wrestling. Sweet Daddy Siki was on this show, Dickie Steinborn, Red Bastien, and Angelo Savoldi. A pre-Crusher Reggie Lasowski and Arnold Skolin was canceled because they went to curfew. So this is a big deal. And you hear those gate totals, 30,000, and they started to build up over time at the Garden too. I mean, it didn't obviously start off hot, but once Buddy Rogers got going, it seemed to be that like you'd get about maybe 10, 11, 12,000 people for your average show. At least what it seemed to be for Capital Wrestling when they started. And then, Buddy Rogers seemed to be like, you can get that thing up to 18. 16, 17, 18 when Buddy's there. And then the Bruno era came in because Buddy started to drop a little bit. The Bruno era came in, and that's when you really started seeing totals started to build up and stay consistently good. And then Pedro Morales came along and just blew him up completely. Scott Teal did a book, and I'll have to look it up during the break, on Madison Square Garden, and I'd have to see who he co-authored it with, and I've been dying to get this book. I really want to get it because they go through all the results and newspaper clippings and everybody that's ran that building back into another era through all incarnations of Madison Square Garden, all the wrestling that's taken place there. And it goes back, obviously, into the 1800s. It's just absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing book, and I've been dying to get that. But, there's always a lot of questions over the totals. And who knows what New Japan and Ring of Honor are going to announce. The most obnoxious total I've ever seen announced for Madison Square Garden was July 30th, 1983, and you can kind of look this one up on the history of WWE.com website that Graham Cawthon has done with all of the results on there, that including the Felt Forum, which was always announced for, I think it was always about 4,000 for the whole, or maybe it was 5,000 but like they announced 27,000 people, including the people at the theater next door. 27,000 for a show on July 30th, 1983 on the USA Network. It was basically centered around Don Morocco and Jimmy Snuka, which was the hot feud at the time. And I have to see if this probably, looking at it, was Dusty Rhodes' last match in the WWF. It would have to be at that time. He was in Florida at that time in 83, I believe. And he was part of a team with Andre the Giant and Ivan Putski defeating the Wild Samoans. All three of them, including Samula. Samoan number 3. When Andre pinned Samula with a sit-down splash. And Andre, Dusty, and Putski all celebrated at the end. That would have to be it. There was also a George the Animal Steel, Bob Backlund WWF Championship match that I'm sure was something. Loop it back around again? I don't know how it's going to be worth the money for AAA, but I guess we'll have to see. Go back to the phone lines now, 1-800-878-PLAY, 1-800-878-7529. Daniel in North Carolina. Daniel, thank you for holding on there. What's happening?
Hey, Mike, how are you doing, man?
I'm making it.
So I've kind of been burnt out on the WWE product leading into this, but looking over the card, there's some really interesting kind of generational matches with Orton and AJ and Joe and Ray and Seth and Brock. There's, I hate to give the WWE any credit, but they could be good looking coming out of this. But as for anything else, I kind of think the Indies will shine this weekend more than anything. I've just really become, this is the weekend for indie wrestling to me more than WWE.
You got one show this weekend that stands out to you as like that's your thing? Because like every year for me, because I don't get a chance to watch the DVDs and I always catch them late, like Shimmer being on live is always a show that's like, all right, I'm going to definitely check that one out. Kaiju Big Battle for laughs, I always do that one. Joey Janela, is there one show that's like, yeah, that's the one I look forward to every week now?
The Janela shows to me have been you're not going to see great stuff, but it's entertaining. And the Rev Pro show is extremely packed. And, I mean, I guess you could say the New Japan Ring of Honor show, but the Rev Pro show, I think, could be the best show of the weekend.
Dana, I want to thank you very much for the call. I just got a couple people I want to get to everybody here. But like Adam Summers, my co-host, got front row tickets, I believe, for the Rev Pro show. And if you're a New Japan fan, that's probably the spiritual extension more than Bloodsport, more than anything else. That is really the extension, I think, in New Japan because of that relationship they have with Rev Pro and Zack Sabre Jr. and Minoru Suzuki and all that sort of good stuff that's going to be on there. So I know a lot of people are looking forward to that one. I'm going to take it to Tim in Miami. Tim, how you been?
Hey, what's up, Mike? I just want to make a couple comments. First of all, I think the best, probably top to bottom show this weekend is going to be the TakeOver show, just because they usually are. But I am really looking forward to this Ring of Honor New Japan MSG show, and I don't even follow Ring of Honor New Japan that closely, but like I grew up in the Northeast, and so it was just like all WWE, and to me the atmosphere of having, guys who are kind of at the cutting edge of modern wrestling from an in-ring perspective, and that big show, old school kind of atmosphere, I think it's going to be like the best acid trip ever.
Well, that's like, on paper, both of these shows, again, the build-ups haven't been great, and obviously it's been wonky because of New Japan, how they do business and everything, and running shows before they announce matches and all that sort of stuff. I mean, it's been weird, but yeah, when you look at it, from pillar to post, both shows look pretty good. Both that and the WWE show, even though it's going to be incredibly painfully long.
Well, Mike, when people complain about the 16 or 17 matches, I think they're complaining about the wrong thing because the show's going to be 5.5 or 6 hours on the main show, whether you have 16 matches on the main card or you have 12. So I actually think the overabundance of matches might make them pace the thing a little bit better. Maybe the things that don't need to be long won't be so long, and maybe they won't make us sit through the equivalent of an NFL halftime between every segment.
Tim, I want to thank you very much for the call, sir. I've got to keep it moving because we're close on time here. Got a couple other people on the line, but I always appreciate you calling in. Tim in Miami's got a podcast. You just got to tweet me that information again so I can put that out there. I can't vouch for it, but I can let people know about it just out of courtesy to you, sir. Antonio in El Paso. Antonio, how are you?
I'm doing good, Mike. How are you?
Not too bad, my man. What's on your mind?
Well, I just finished watching today's opening show for the All Japan Pro Wrestling Carnival, Champion Carnival. I think it's going to get lost in the weekend. But it was a good show. Miyahara versus Aoki was worth watching.
Yeah, it's definitely going to get lost over the weekend. There's probably going to be a lot of hardcore fans that will be keeping up with it the best that they can. But, yeah, luckily it's going to be going on for a while where it'll get more of its shine here in the upcoming week. Speaking of shine, I just want to throw this out there, not about the promotion shine, but about guys looking good. Apparently, Konosuke Takeshita looked really good today at the Evolve 125 show. Kids under 25, 30 years old, he's another one you got to look out for. Wrestles for DDT. We got a lot more stuff to get to. We're going to pack into 2.5 minutes. We get back from break.
You are listening to Wrestling Observer Live with Brian Alvarez and Mike Sempervive on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network.
Ned in Pawcatuck, Connecticut. Are you there?
I am here, and you actually know where Pawcatuck, Connecticut is.
Of course. I got an A in geography way back in the day.
Oh, look at you. Look at you. Well, I felt sort of bad. You've been talking a lot today, and I assume it's because Mr. Alvarez has flown halfway across the country to count the lights against Orange Cassidy.
Well, yeah, I'm like one of these indie wrestlers. I got to get all my ish in while he's gone. So just high spots for an hour.
Good one. Question for you. A bit of a lapsed wrestling fan, sort of slowly gotten back into it the last year or so. Besides New Japan, and for the person who doesn't have a whole lot of time in their hands, what would you recommend to look at in Japan?
Ooh, look at it in Japan right now. The thing would be, if you like women's wrestling, it would be
Shimmer?
It would be Stardom.
Stardom,
basically the Japanese Shimmer, because I still think Shimmer's the best here. Would definitely be Stardom, and then for the dudes, it just kind of depends on what you like. All Japan Pro Wrestling, if you're more of a traditional wrestling fan, I think All Japan is an easier thing to get into right now. They have young guys that are like Kento Miyahara that are looking pretty good. They get talent in from Wrestle One and DDT and from other promotions. They get blended in there, so you can check out a couple of different people. And I think that would probably be the easiest extension, but there's Big Japan and DDT as well, too, if you're looking for something a little bit more ramped up and a little bit more action. And, of course, there's always Dragon Gate, too, if you like that sort of faster-paced style. That's best I could kind of do here in the last 30 seconds of the show, but don't worry, we're here every single day with you, so I'm going to be back to try this thing again tomorrow. It's WrestleMania week. Let's get it.
Fans, right here, the man with the bragging rights at the moment, Roddy Piper with the money, $10,000, and that Mid-Atlantic belt.
You didn't introduce me right. I want you to introduce me again.
The Mid-Atlantic champion.
The Mid-Atlantic heavyweight champion. What we're talking about here is we're talking about 10 grand. What I'm talking about here is I stuck it to the Indian, Mr. Jack Briscoe. I stuck it to Wahoo McDaniels. I stuck it to Ricky Steamboat. Hey, Steamboat, I'm going to be go out partying with a little of your money here. They got a fine. The NWA wanted to levy on me for 9 grand. I'm going to pay the fine off, mister. The most important thing that I got in my whole life that I rightfully deserve is I am the Mid-Atlantic heavyweight champion. Now, I made you look like the gum that goes squirting there, Jack Briscoe. I made you look like nothing but a squaw. I made you Hot Rod here, made you look like nothing. Hot Rod did that so easy. I had hours left in me. I had days left in me. I was just playing. It was through just my own pureness that I let you out as simple as I did. The Mid-Atlantic heavyweight champion. Well, let me tell you something, Mr. Jack Briscoe. Let me tell you something. If you think that you're going to cage me in, I got one man here, Mr. Sergeant Slaughter, United States heavyweight champion. I got magnificent Morocco. No one's caging me in no place.
That's right. Congratulations, Roddy Piper. We got all the belts back again. Are we going to have a party? You know, the party's really going to happen to Wahoo McDaniels when I get a hold of him. Because Wahoo McDaniels, take a look at his face. You blackened my eyes. You broken my nose. You put stitches in my head. When I get done with you, you'll have to go down to 7-Eleven or one of those stores and use one of these 3D glasses for your squassing at home to look at you and see the real side of you, Wahoo McDaniels. That means Roddy Piper and I, Ivan Koloff. All right, fans, that's it. We'll be back. We'll have more right after this time out.